studios of WDBO in sunny Orlando, Florida, here's talk radio host Joe Kelly's Behind the News podcast, where Joe and his listeners and guests discuss the most important issues of the day, plus the crazy and bizarre stories of the infamous Florida man. Here's Joe Kelly.
All right, we got a lot to cover, and I got a haircut at 7:30. So let's get this all done real quick so I can go get my haircut at 7:30 tonight. Because I'm taking new pictures on Friday, and so I got to get a haircut before I do new headshots. You get the idea. Yes, radio. Get on the radio. Got to get pictures taken of me. With the face for radio, I'm Joe Kelly at Talk Radio Joe. We're going to start the show talking about transgender athletes and the confounding ignorance of the athletic director at San Francisco State University. Now, this all stems from USA swimmer Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines spoke on campus in favor of sports being separated on the basis of biological sex. Riley Gaines is a female swimmer, born female. She is a female. She's a female athlete. And I will tell you that for those of you who have lived in Orlando for more than a few years, you know that there's another famous swimmer here in Orlando named Rusty Gaines. And if you made the connection like I did and thinking, oh, Randy Gaines must be Rusty Gaines's daughter. I looked it up. Absolutely not the case. Her dad's name is Brad Gaines, and he played football at Vanderbilt University, and her mother played softball at the Donaldson Christian Academy. So she comes from an athletic family, but not from Rowdy Gaines's family. So she was at San Francisco State University with Turning Point USA, a conservative group that speaks on college campuses. And she was advocating for the separation of biological men from biological women in athletics in college and elsewhere. Something that I share that philosophy with her. I share that belief with her. But that is that was not received well after her statements. After her speech, she was heckled and jeered and taunted, and she says she got hit twice by a man in a dress that was video recording her and taunting her and everything else like that. So the same school, San Francisco State University athletic director. So this would conceivably be somebody who knows a thing or two about athletics. The San Francisco State University athletic director claims that there is no competitive difference between men and women. There's no competitive difference. They're exactly the same. The athletic director, she's got a hyphenated last name, Stephanie Shrive-Hawkins, said that believing men have an athletic advantage over women in sports is a common mistake. You'll notice that especially transgender male to female is the one that people are focusing most on because it's gender bias in a way as well. So what does that say about women? That women aren't strong? How insulting to women from a woman. What's wrong, ladies? Are you not strong? Is that really what the case is? Well, that wasn't awkward at all. We'll edit that out in post. Don't worry about it. So what do you think? What do you think about it? And honestly, if I was a woman, I would just be so thoroughly insulted. I would be so off-put if I was a woman to hear this other woman, Stephanie Shrive-Hawkins, she's basically mocking women. So what does that mean? What does that say about women? She says that women aren't strong. Damn, women are strong. Women are strong. But are you going to deny the physiology differences that exist between men and women just to virtue signal that trans athletes are welcome at San Francisco State University? Look, we figured trans athletes are going to be welcomed at San Francisco State University. A lot of stuff is welcomed in San Francisco that is not welcomed in other parts of the nation. But San Francisco is the outlier there. Now, this as the Biden administration wants boys playing in girls' sports. They want this. So the Florida Education Commissioner is blasting a new proposal from the Biden administration, which would allow boys to compete in girls' sports. The U.S. Department of Education announced a new proposal that would outlaw school policies that require men and women to compete in separate athletic divisions. Now, the way they phrase that, it makes it sound like it's a free-for-all, that there will be no more, women's track, women's swimming, women's basketball, that they're all going to be playing men at the same time. And, man, I suppose that would be one way to do it. We did it that way in intramural sports sometimes, but not on the college team. So Florida is not putting up with this. Florida is not going to deal with this. Florida, in fact, here, the Florida Education Commissioner, Manny Diaz Jr., in a news statement said this is a sad, pathetic attempt from a completely inept administration to force their woke worldview on the rest of us. Since Joe Biden can't get Congress or the Supreme Court to rubber stamp his radical gender ideology, he's resorted to bullying America's students through the federal bureaucracy. Good luck, this won't fly in Florida. Now, Governor DeSantis has previously signed the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, which bans men from competing in women's sports in Florida public schools and universities. And by men, he means biological men. People who are born men can play in men's sports. People who are born women can play in women's sports. Diaz, the state education commissioner, again says, we will never allow boys to play in girls' sports. We will fight this overreach tooth and nail. We will stop at nothing to uphold the protections afforded women under Title IX. I honestly don't understand why women are not more outraged by this. It seems like conservative men are outraged by this. I don't understand why liberal and conservative women aren't apoplectic about allowing fake women to compete against real women. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
Yeah, Joe. Women aren't strong enough because they're not willing to be strong enough to defend themselves against this woke, whatever you want to call it. But women need to stand up and defend themselves, and they got to be strong.
Yeah, and I don't understand why there isn't a movement of women that is leading this campaign. Because it is women's sports that is going to be destroyed, if not already destroyed. Leah Thompson, who was once a man and became a woman and is now swimming competitively against women. When Leah Thomas, before Leah Thomas became I don't know the problem, and I don't want to say things insulting. I don't try to be deliberately insulting. So before Leah Thomas transitioned into a woman, if you will, when Leah Thomas was a biological male, he was ranked something like 432 in the nation. When he became a woman, when he started competing against women is what I should say. When he started competing against women, he immediately entered the top 5. And you want to tell me this school athletic director at San Francisco State University wants to tell me that there's no competitive difference between men and women? Then how in the world did Leah Thomas go from 432 to top 5 in swimming? It just doesn't make any sense. Today, we heard an interesting comment out of the White House. John Kirby, you know him from the National Security Council. He is the guy they bring out when they don't trust Karine Jean-Pierre with important information. Karine Jean-Pierre, who to this day has to refer to a binder to read answers rather than speaking extemporaneously. John Kirby does all the news conferences when there's difficult issues to discuss, more so than usual. So today, they put him forward to talk about the leaks, the massive intel leaks that has once again embarrassed the United States of America. Once again, we have egg on our face. Once again, we look weak to the rest of the world because we can't keep our own secrets from getting out. Because people leak so much from so many different places so often. There are no secrets anymore. So John Kirby today decided to point the blame elsewhere.
Without confirming the validity of the documents, this is information that has no business in the public domain. It has no business, if you don't mind me saying, on the pages of front pages of newspapers or on television. It is not intended for public consumption, and it should not be out there. There's a Justice Department investigation going on right now, a criminal investigation. I'm certainly not going to say anything that would prejudice that, and that work is just starting. So we don't know who's behind this. We don't know what the motive is, and I think, I can't remember who asked before, but we don't know what else might be out there. So we've got to let the Department of Defense run their process with the interagency and taking a look at the national security implications of it. And we got to let the Justice Department be able to pursue their investigation, again, completely unfettered, and let the facts and the evidence take them where they may, and we'll deal with it on the back end.
So Kirby is saying that we, journalists, have no business reporting on the leaked intel. That it is the newspapers, the radio stations, the TV stations, the newsroom around America that are at fault for publishing the leaked classified documents that are circulating online. He's going to put the blame off on us. Now, I will say that I have a dog in the hunt on this one, right? So I'm in the media, and I have a default position on this, and that is, it's kind of like the discussion we had last night when we were talking about the Nazis, and the guy said, "Why would you talk about it? Why do you only talk about things when they're happening?" Well, that's because that's how news works. We talk about things that are happening. We don't talk about things that aren't happening. And if you, John Kirby, and the rest of your pals at the Pentagon did a better job of keeping intel secrets rather than leaking intel secrets, the media would have nothing to report on. And, that might have worked back in the days of Walter Cronkite. That might have worked back in the days of Peter Jennings and Tom Brokaw and Dan Rather. It worked back when JFK was having affairs on his wife from the White House. It worked when Ted Kennedy was killing people. I mean, it has worked with previous administrations. I'll tell you, the guy who screwed it up for presidents, at least, was Gary Hart, because Gary Hart, the political candidate, was having an affair. The presidential candidate was having an affair, and he taunted the media. I dare you to print it. I dare you to print what you think you know about my personal affairs and relationships. Well, that's all it took, and the media printed it, and it torpedoed his presidential campaign. That's why in history books, you'll never read about President Gary Hart. Had he not taunted the media, perhaps there would have been a President Gary Hart. If you don't want the information to be published, don't let it get out, or don't let it happen. Don't cheat on your wife when you're the president, and don't leak intel out of the Pentagon. It's the Pentagon's fault. It's not the reporter's fault. Now, all that having been said, as I said, I've got a bias on this, right? So if you think I'm seeing this wrong, if you think that the media ought to just clam up and keep secrets from the American people, then let me know. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. Should the media report on the leaked intelligence out of the Pentagon that has everybody, both allies and adversaries, agitated with the United States right now, with the Biden administration right now, with the Biden Pentagon right now? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. We'll continue with more of your calls and comments. Plus, we're going to hear from a Louisville, Kentucky surgeon and his thoughts on what needs to be done to stop all the gun violence. That'll be coming up next. Stay right there. If you ever miss a minute of the show, we got a podcast. Just look for Behind the News with Joe Kelly wherever you get your podcasts. It is available, of course, in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else you get your pod. There's like 1,000 different ways you can get podcasts. You can also get it in the WDBO app. Just click the on-demand button. You can go to WDBO.com if you'd like to do it that way as well. Several topics we're working here tonight because we're deftly able to handle multiple topics at the same time. We've got multiple tabs open in our brains and in our mouths right now. We're talking about transgender athletes for one.
I don't agree. I think that is so pathetic. I think men should compete with men. Women should compete with women. Leah, he's a man. He's always going to be a man. He has no place in women's sport.
Let's go to Sarasota. Jennifer is joining us here on WDBO. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, good afternoon, Joe. How are you?
Great, thank you.
So I'm also disagreeing with the previous comment, and it's my first time caller. I'm so pissed off. For a woman, just to say that in regards to as far as being a female in this female male, as far as education, financial background, it sets up back to what your great grandmother actually fought for.
Yeah.
And in nowadays USA, here comes freedom. What else can they disable our country and the new generations? Because this applies also. Okay, so you're going to put it in sports. Now you're applying into schools. Now financial, and here you go. What are we teaching the children nowadays? And we, as a woman, because I don't call myself as many, we're women. We're always talk too much. I'm sorry, guys, and this is why a male should always lead the country, because in the background, we are making it great for you. You guys provide as a provider of the country, a leader. Biden, shame on you. This candidate that just said this asinine things of females being stronger than guys. Come on, girls, let's do it. Okay, first of all, you make us this strong. And I'm sorry, my accent's coming out.
No, it's great. It's great.
I'm very passionate.
Now, I don't know if you know this.
Nowadays, women are stronger than the grandmother, because now we have so many choices, but because men made us this strong. We fought for our freedom. And to fight in a field with men, how come they cannot have their own field of transgender? If you want to be a boy or a girl, if you want to grow up to be a woman and a man, have your own field, just like the Olympics for special needs.
Yeah.
Be equal.
Right.
Be fair.
Yes. And I don't know if you're aware of this, Jennifer, but by the sounds of it, at least, what you're telling me is you sound like you fit into a new category that we have these days called trad, not tran, trad wives, and that stands for traditional wives, which is kind of a throwback to the 50s and 60s when wives would stay home, they would work, they would support their husbands. I mean, it kind of sounds like that's where you're coming from. Am I right?
I disagree.
You disagree, so you don't see yourself that way. Okay.
That was correct, because that was my mom.
Oh,
that
I
was
see.
The previous generation.
Okay.
What I am is a single parent of 3, working in an industry of men, commercial, installation, and doors. I started as installer. COVID put a different degree where I struggled and I lost everything. And now you're getting me emotional online. But there's so many thousand people that can relate to this story. Either what we're going to do, we're going to prevail, push, renovate, and go, because we at the heart have children to raise.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it, Jennifer.
The government has fooled our eyes.
Yep.
We trusted the school board.
Yep.
What are we teaching our children to be? To me, we should go back to ethics principle 101. We're there to learn math, science, reading. The statistics that it was said a couple of days up north, I don't want to say New York or Chicago, but 1 out of 25 kids actually read and pass tests.
Yeah, it's
crazy. What does that say with the public schools and charters? So what are we raising? You as a mother, right now, you're telling me you're okay with having this race, Men against women, genetically. What are the rights that you're taking against your little girl right now? Look at her eyes, and you're telling me this is okay? What did your foundation,
Jennifer,
your grandma fought for you to do?
You are a fantastic caller. Come back anytime. Now, to Jennifer's point, our caller just a moment ago, to Jennifer's point about how our schools are doing some crazy things right now. Out of Maine, a mother in Maine is suing her local school board for keeping her child's transgender identity a secret from the mom. The mother felt she should have been included. Really? The mother felt she should have been included while the school was changing her daughter's gender identity? Oh, the audacity of a mother for wanting to be in the loop on something like that. Yes, that was sarcasm. Amber Levine is her name. She found a chest binder in her 13-year-old daughter's belongings. She found out that her child's school social worker provided the young teen with the chest binder and that she was counseling her about transitioning genders. The school counselor told the confused child that she would not need to tell her parents about the transition, which encouraged the child not only to continue pursuing a transgender lifestyle, but also to keep secrets from her mother. That is the most evil thing that I could imagine. Well, that is one of the most evil things that an adult can do to a child. I mean, that is something that one would do to a child before you molest them. You tell them, don't tell your parents. This is on that scale. Don't tell your parents. In a statement, the mom says, this was no accident. My daughter's public school counselor deliberately tried to keep me in the dark, encouraging my daughter's gender transition and encouraging her to hide it from me. When school officials found out, they actually defended the counselor's actions, trampling on my rights at every turn. I deserve to know what's happening to my child. The secrecy needs to stop. I genuinely do not care. I am happy for people who, if later in life they realize, gosh, I was born in the wrong body and I want to transition to the other gender. I don't have a problem with that. I absolutely have no problem in the world, and I will respect your pronouns. I will call you whatever you want to be called, and I will love you like I love all the rest of my neighbors. But this crap has to stop. Hiding secrets from parents, keeping transitioning from parents, and letting men compete athletically with women. It all has to stop. 844-580-WDBO or hit me up in the open mic in the WDBO app. By the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but the WDBO payroll payoff is coming back. You're going to have a chance to win $1,000 5 times a day. It starts April 24th, so mark it on your calendar. April 24th. The WDBO payroll payout is coming. 5 times a day, you'll have a chance to win $1,000. That sounds pretty sweet. 844-580-WDBO. Pat is joining us in Lake Mary. Hello, Pat.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Listen, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but it's scientifically proven that men are stronger than women. And the only way a trans man could compete is if he starts puberty blockers before he starts puberty, which we don't know what that's going to do to him because he's still never going to be a female anyway, and they have done no long-term studies. So it's like, I don't understand it because, take my granddaughter for an example. She played with Barbie dolls. She played with dinosaurs. Some days the dinosaurs ate the Barbies. Some days the Barbies rode the dinosaurs. Does that make her want to be something else? Science.
You do make an interesting point there, Pat, and that is that for someone who wants to transition, particularly from male to female, and if they start taking puberty blockers before puberty, it does allow their body to better resemble a woman's body than if they wait until they're 45 years old and decide to transition at that time. But while I can acknowledge that, that doesn't make me any more comfortable with an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old girl or boy having puberty blockers. And, you know, if there is a parent, if there is a psychologist, if there are legit people who can talk to a person in that situation and try to figure out if this is just a social contagion, that is, they want to be transgender because they want to stand out, they want to be unique, they want to be different, not because they actually feel like they're a different gender, then those people need to be weeded out of any kind of gender-changing situations. And I think that would be the bulk of the people. I mean, it's unfathomable that there is any more than 1% of our population that is truly transgender, that truly feels like they're born in the wrong body, not just someone who a lot of people believe Dylan Mulvaney is just doing it for convenience sake. Dylan Mulvaney is doing it because Dylan Mulvaney could not become famous as a man, so Dylan Mulvaney decided to become famous as a woman. Last thing I want to share with you here is a Louisville surgeon. After the mass shooting in Louisville, a Louisville surgeon speaking about what it is like to continuously be treating gunshot victims. This is less than a minute.
To be honest with you, we barely had to adjust our operating room schedule to be able to do this. That's how frequent we are having to deal with gun violence in our community. I'll tell you personally, I'm weary. I've been in Louisville for 15 years, all of it at University Hospital. For 15 years, I've cared for victims of violence and gunshot wounds. And people say I'm tired, but I'll be answered. It's more than tired. I'm weary. There's only so many times you can walk into a room and tell someone they're not coming home tomorrow. And it just breaks your heart. When you hear someone screaming, "Mommy," or "Daddy," it just becomes too hard day in and day out to be able to do that. I'm a doctor. I don't know what the answers are. But to everyone who helps make policy, both at state, city, federal, I would simply ask you to do something. Because doing nothing, which is what we've been doing, is not working.
Heartfelt comments there from a surgeon, an ER surgeon in Louisville, Kentucky. And I think a lot of us feel the same way, particularly those of us who enjoy guns, who own guns. And look, there's no way to get around the Second Amendment. I mean, there is a way to get around the Second Amendment, but the toll for that is incredibly high. And America does not have the appetite to ditch the Second Amendment. Not now, perhaps not ever. And I agree with him that something has to be done, but what it is that will be done, heaven only knows at this point. My name is Joe Kelly. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Don't forget to check out the podcast, Behind the News with Joe Kelly, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more.